The thing that's brought us together today is, in our industry, we are all dealing with change. Whether that is kind of change as an individual in your role, whether that's change across your whole organization, we're all dealing with change across technology, across people, across staffing, resource, HR, across ideas, changes around our processes, the systems that we have, changes in our audience and the way our audience is developing and changing. And we're all trying to deal with that change. And I think today what we're going to be talking about is how we can deal with that change a little bit better. This is the second time that we've done a session on bridging. It's the brainchild of Albert from David Systems, wherever he is. There he is, great. Something that he's put together. Bridging's a kind of interesting concept. It's, in some senses, it's quite complex. In some senses, actually, it's dead simple, right? It's about collaborations. It's about bringing people together. It's about bringing ideas together across geography, across technology and processes and systems. And it's kind of this idea that, hey, if we come together in different ways, then we can be stronger. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We've got kind of two groups of people here. We've got 6 people on stage plus me, and we've got a group of strategists, people who are running radio businesses, people who are CEOs, people who are bosses, people who are running teams, and then we've got a group of operators, so people who are kind of at the coalface, are making things, are producing, are doing things. Because I think actually across all of our roles, and I can talk about this as someone who's working at the BBC, across my role, we are all bridging, we are all collaborating, we are all trying to come together and trying to figure it out so that we can deal with this changing industry. So, that's the start. I think we should just kick off with a few introductions and maybe kind of where you guys sit within the bridging idea and bridging concept. Bruno, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I'm Bruno. I used to be CTO in public broadcaster in France for over 20 years. And then I had the opportunity to change the side of the table, contributing to the relaunch of a French software publisher called Netia. And the challenge here is to turn it into a sort of a restartup and becoming the kind of a partner I was looking for when I was a CTO, which is an actual partner that would help change with agility the type of infrastructure, legacy infrastructure I was using. And so that's what I'm engaged in the last 5 years.
Great. Hi, everyone. Oh, is my microphone working?
Keep talking. We've got some quiet microphones maybe at the front now.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Jamet. I'm Executive Director of Audio and Radio for the Canadian public broadcaster, Radio-Canada, so the French services. We're in a small market, which is, actually it's a large market, but it's a protected market because of the French language. I come from, before arriving to radio in 2018, I worked for a media group, which was newspapers publishing. And we transformed the traditional newspaper into digital and stopped printing the newspaper in 2016. So when I began in radio, it was really obvious to me that radio had this incredible opportunity to really walk into the future. And I think it's a really exciting time to be doing what we're doing today, because when do we have this opportunity in a lifetime to work with new media? Podcasts has been a whole new window opening to our industry. And so that has been, the journey, I guess, that we've been going through at Radio-Canada. And one of the things that was important was to create in our structure digital audio at the same level as radio, to really work everyone as a team, to be able to build a strong platform, to put all our content at the same place, one destination for our audience, because at the end of the day, it's that same audience that we're all looking to meet. And it's been a great journey, and today we have more listeners on radio that we've ever had, and we've developed this new audience through podcasts and our other content. So, thank you.
Great. Ole.
Yeah, so hi everybody. My name is Ole Zachrisson, and I'm the news commissioner from Swedish Radio, so I'm also from the public broadcaster. So I would say almost that my professional life has been about bridging. So now I'm in strategy and commissioning, so I'm trying to build a bridge to the newsrooms that are actually producing our content, and we're also trying to bridge between different sides of our company, like for example between the editorial side and the product side. So there's a lot of bridging going on there. And actually we have some European and international bridging also. For example, Radio France Canada and Swedish Radio, we have a Viking podcast that is coming out in a joint effort. So I love bridging.
Can people relate to that, right? This idea that actually maybe you've been bridging your entire career? Because I feel like that. I feel like I've been bridging my entire career. I don't know. Do other people in the room feel like can relate to that? Don't know. Nikki, you can relate to that. Christian.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I'm Christian. I was trained and I worked for the public radio in Germany, and then 13 years ago I started the podcast Radio Detector FM. It's a nationwide online radio with podcasts, and now it's more like a podcast label with online radio. So we're bridging these two worlds, the live stream world and the on-demand podcasting world. And on the other hand, we're always building bridges to other companies, like media companies. We have successful podcasts with the Brand 1 magazine, it's a German economic magazine, or Spektrum, it's a science magazine. And we try to, connect them with us, give them our capabilities, our possibilities, and thrive their businesses and our business. And when it comes together, it's really successful. And just this year, in the beginning of this year, we partnered with the RBB, it's a public radio in Germany, for a podcast for the first time. And it was the first German 50-50 cooperation between a public radio and a private radio. And that is a really big deal in Germany. So I'm always building bridges too.
Great. So that's our strategists in the room. Let's move on to our operators. Camille, introduce yourself.
I'm Camille Bondeville, and I started in audio and radio 4 years ago. I apologize for my voice, I'm just hearing it now. Started 4 years ago.
Your voice sounds great, don't apologize for your voice.
So I started more on the tech side with David Systems, and I was just so shocked by the amount of silos that are existing in the industry, not only in terms of silos between people, between departments, between teams, between companies as well, technologies, of course. And this shock was just so intense that it just motivated me to co-found a startup. And that's whose total mission is to bridge people and bridge technologies.
Cool. I want to come back to the idea of silos as well in a moment.
Hi, I'm the other Caroline. I was in my early 20s in 2011 when the Arab Spring started, and I was lucky enough to go to Algeria at the time for the French National Public Radio. I was asked to do a nine episode podcast, which was amazing for a 20-something. I didn't know at the time that I was going to be bridging. I just found that out a few days ago. I love it. And so, after doing that project, I was asked to do another, then another, and I started thinking about how I could, at the same time, put in new technologies for the use of radio, try to find new ways to make radio using new tools like Skype in 2014 or WhatsApp in the last 2-3 years since the COVID. And then I went on to do some animation project, film projects, so trying to find ways as well to get radio out of radio. That's it.
Cool. Okay, so a reminder again that if you've got questions, if you've got thoughts, do stick your hand up and we'll come to you. I'm going to start with the strategist guys. So like, you guys are managing big change across your teams, across your tech, across your audiences. What are some of the kind of biggest challenges for you guys managing that change and kind of using bridging as a way to kind of deal with it? I don't know who wants to jump in first.
I mean, one big gap is, of course, the kind of cultural gap between, for example, the editorial and the product side. Whereas on the editorial side, you have you're looking at the audience, of course, and we're trying to become better in working data informed. But you're really so much kind of focused on your quality, on being factually correct, those kind of things, at least in news where I work. Whereas on the product side, they have much more the users in their view, you know. And
And
that's
when you say, sorry to jump in, Ale, but
Yeah.
when you say product, you mean kind of developers?
developers on the
Yeah.
on the technical side, like for example, app developers or coders. And I think, I mean, that this is such an excellent chance for bridging, you know, because in journalism we have tended to be a little bit full of ourselves, you know, or obsessed with our own journalism, and especially obsessed with what the politicians do, like government, experts, and actually haven't been so good at looking at the audience needs. And that's a perspective from the product side or the developer side that we can really learn from also in journalism. So that's one challenge, but also a possibility that we're working with in my company.
I would say one of the other challenges, and I think that's a great point that you just mentioned, is building our functionalities, keeping up with the big players, because it's expensive. We are media companies first. We're not technical companies first, but we are all digital now. But at the same time, I think that's a huge challenge of keeping up. At the same time, we've got the strength because our brands have built up over the years such trust, such expertise in-house, and our content is seen as very high quality. So we've got a lot of pluses, but I think the habits of our audience is being, we're challenged by all the bells and whistles that are offered through the very quickly changing big players, and we need to keep up.
And I mean, you say quickly changing big players. I think part of the challenge is we're big. We're quite, as an industry and as your organisation and my organisation and yours, Ole, like we're large organisations. So any kind of change, like serious change, system change is pretty difficult.
Can I just add? I've worked in quite a lot of media companies. Everybody feels small. Yeah. Because there's always somebody, if you're not maybe Amazon or Google or something, I mean, you always feel small. Even some of the big tech players. And inside the companies, everybody feels small. Oh, my team, nobody cares about my team, Even our CEO feels small, like I can't control everything in my company. So that's one thing that we can maybe find common ground in.
Perfectly true. Just to add to that, because we all feel small, we tend not to believe that the other people are really caring about us. And my biggest challenge is this one, to make sure that all the people I work with in my company are really caring about the success of the customers or partners, their audience. That's where our focus is, and make sure we are. It's quite difficult to get our customers to accept that it's our real goal is just to make them succeed. And we had no other goal. Because if we want radio to succeed, there is no other way. We have to team up and bridge and work together and make it work.
I think that's very interesting point, because one of my most often tasks in the day is to convince people from different cultures to work together. Maybe they are small, but added up together, they are almost as big as the big players that everybody is fearing. And so convincing them to do so and try to, behold the open infrastructure and have an open infrastructure, that is our task that we see to, avoid monopolies and try to have like a democratic infrastructure.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. In a kind of a smaller organisation working in a startup, you can kind of relate to some of this, or you feel you have a different set of challenges?
No, definitely continuing on the idea of caring, actually. I've been hearing quite a bit in this conference about changing ways of working during COVID and how people got adapted with the tools they had. And so our challenge nowadays, like as a part of the tech side of radio and audio, is to ensure that not only we support new ways of working, but we drive them as well. So that's the idea of caring for people to be able to work from anywhere with everyone, breaking down boundaries. Yeah.
Caroline, one of the things that we were talking about last night was this idea that actually for you, maybe the challenge is most of the time convincing these guys
Exactly.
that what you're doing is actually the right thing to do, and actually you've got these great bridging ideas that you kind of want to do, which maybe is a challenge to sell.
I guess it's interesting to hear your perspective, because from my side it's always been challenging, I like that word, challenging, to find ways to convince about new ideas and find ways to implement them in big structures. So for example, I was speaking about 2014, the idea of bringing Skype into the studio and asking my bosses if that was a possibility, because there is also this great strength of radio that suddenly, wow, what if we ask someone in Zambia to speak about how they feel about such and such issue and have this intimate discussion with someone who is in Sweden and let them talk together live and see what happens. And radio is so flexible and light that these things are possible and easy to create if you have the technological tools. So we actually got the radio to install the tools inside the studios, and it was, I think, an interesting tool to have in the years that followed later. But sometimes it can be more difficult when the COVID happened in 3 years ago. I got this idea that I wanted to ask, because I couldn't do my show anymore. I was thinking, how can I again connect with people and find sounds from the ground without being able to move myself? And that's when I started to use WhatsApp. And at the time, it took more than a month for me to convince my bosses.
Only 1 month. Amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. Amazing. But I was writing to them pretty much every day to say, look, I've got these amazing sounds that are coming to me through WhatsApp, and can we do something with them? And so it took a while, but then afterwards they got onto the big show, and they actually included it into the 6 p.m. show. So that was good. Yeah, it takes a while, but it's.
Maybe I can just add, because we have a similar experience with Detector FM. We started in 2012 a radio show where people could send voice messages via our app. And even then, WhatsApp didn't have voice messages. We just discovered there is the possibility in the phone to record and to use it in the radio. Then we won the German Radio Prize for this innovation. But nobody thought about it. And just a guy from our company said, hey, let's do it. And we just said, okay, let's try it. And I mean, this openness is really, really important to do so.
Okay, so not only do we have a circular room here with you guys all around us, and not only do we have 7 people on stage, but we also have 2 witnesses with us today. 2 people who are let's say, in the younger demographic at Radio Days, who are kind of here to challenge us and poke us a little bit with maybe some questions. So do you want to maybe introduce yourself and just say where you're from, and then stick your oar in?
Good morning. My name is Julius Peter. I work at Media School Bayern in Munich, Germany. And, well, I want to add to what you two were just talking about, how sometimes it's maybe good to just go ahead and try something, even though a lot of times it's difficult. Because right now we're living in such a fast-paced time with apps like TikTok and Instagram, Reels, etc., just pushing forward audio and video. Often small content creators don't have those like blockades to step over, and so they can just try out new things way quicker. And I think that can sometimes, push us as like big media down, and maybe sometimes we need to take away some of those hurdles. How could we go ahead and take away some of those hurdles?
Who wants to go?
Well, maybe I'm sticking my chin out, but just because you have an idea, it's not doesn't mean it's a good idea. If you see what I mean, So we have so many different ideas thrown at us all the time, and we have to make priorities, of course. Not saying that we should be closed, and I'm completely with you. We have to be open, and we have to explore different ideas. But when we enter into a dialogue, for example, if you come to me with a podcast idea, I mean, it's so important for us to have a relationship, to be able to talk. So I can give you also maybe some negative feedback, if you see what I mean, to kind of refine that idea. But if we don't have a relationship at all, it's much harder to also argue and be frank with each other. So that's one also takeaway I have, or a key insight around bridging. Like within product people, editorial, you have to have this kind of relationship to people to actually enter into those kind of meaningful and sometimes difficult conversations as well.
I think you know, in the last few years, because we've opened up and we've created these platforms and new formats, we're much more open to new content. You know, we receive hundreds of projects a year. It was not the case, you know, 5 years ago, just in radio, because in radio, linear radio programming, you have 7 days, 24 hours. And so we've created all this new content. So we've got, I think, this ability to, you know, to have more conversations and try things. And the formats are so exempt of constraints, you know, with all the digital content that I think we're, you know, it's easier, I would say, to talk with us. And there's more openness.
Sometimes it's not the idea, but the person that is interesting. Because maybe the person is fantastic, but the idea is pretty shitty, you know? So then you want to go and enter a relationship with that person rather than that idea.
Yeah. As in my company, we are doing the tools to help people have an easier time making real or concretizing their ideas. Very often, because we're doing tools for good ideas, we learn about the idea once everybody knows it's a good idea and it's every day and it's been there for a while and some habits have been taken, and then it becomes difficult to do the good tool. And it takes a long time to tool properly something that had started weird, even if it's a good idea, but in a process kind of way, because one thing is to have an idea one day, another thing is to deliver every day at 6 p.m. the same good idea and making sure it's good every day. So, but still, I agree with you that it's too slow. As a president of Netia, I realized that even though all my partners, customers have great ideas, they're moving rather slow. And if I wait for them to be ready to ask me the kind of tool they want, I'll be there too late. Other company will come in and disrupt the game with other tools in another way. So I have to do the investigation myself, and we're losing a bit of energy. So the best configuration for us would be to be able to think about the tool at the same time that an idea is created with our current customers.
Interesting. Yeah, okay, Camille.
Yeah, actually, I want to hop on what you were saying in my company, in our startup. We integrate the tools, actually, because I think, like you were saying, Julius, some younger, more not motivated, but more agile players are able to do things differently with different tools. And how can we make sure that they're able to collaborate with others that are using enterprise tools in a secure and efficient way? How do we make sure that everybody is on the same playing field, basically?
Should we try and answer that question? I know that's a really difficult question to answer, but how do we do it? How do we do it quicker? How do we do it more efficiently? How do we meet this challenge that Julius is setting us? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts, or anyone in the room has any thoughts on any of that stuff. No. Hey, it's a difficult question.
Networking and conference is a good start, you know, to aggregate ideas.
Yeah, I think it is a good start. And actually, I mean, Peter's here from Radiodays, and I think Peter would, well, let's ask you. I think, you know, this idea of bridging, actually is something which I think you feel quite passionately about, and you feel like Radiodays is maybe becoming at the centre of.
Thanks, Sam. You're not doing this anymore. Yes, we feel very strongly about this. If I may step away from my role as Radiodays person, and into my role as a doer in Danish radio, I sometimes think that all the things we want to do in the organization, the changes that we are actually putting in place in order to make change, sometimes gets in the way. I know it's a process and we need to get through them, but it's a new form of bureaucracy. We're just replacing it with the old bureaucracy, which was habitual and worked, and now we have a new thing because we need to get somewhere. But it's just a new set of rules. So I would really like the openness you're talking about. Pull down the barriers. I love what you said, Julius. Pull down the barriers, open up. But on the other hand, I work in public service. So, I mean, we can't pull down all barriers. But, you know, it's such a difficult question. So that's where I see the bridging needs to go. I just don't know how. And, you know, from where to where. That's my biggest
We also have to accept to stay small. I don't know who mentioned that everybody feels small, but I think it's good to be small. you do big mistake when you're big.
Yeah.
When you're small, if you do a mistake, it's a small one. It must be a small one.
Caroline, you were going to jump in.
And being small, you're agile. You can change your mind. You can do it again. And it's one of our main issue, I think, in the radio business. Is this, we're always looking at bigger. Being small is really an advantage to transform. I was a CTO in TV and radio. If I chose radio, it's because I think radio is frugal, is agile, it's small, and it's a virtue when you need to change.
Yeah.
Well, I was just, thinking about all the different models that, we're hearing, like an event like this one, or when we speak, when we're with les médias francophones publics, when we're, talking to one another, explaining how we're working in our own organizations. And there's so much to learn from exchanging information and seeing the other models and thinking, oh, you're doing this and this is working. Oh, maybe we should try this. So I think that there's a lot of new ideas, new ways, and we're agile. We're able to quickly. 5 years ago at this conference, we were talking about completely other things. Today, it's openness. The AI conference yesterday. I was, sitting in that conference. And I'm thinking, wow, there's this other change that will be impacting us. How do we think of this? So I think that we have to be open. We are more agile sometimes than we think, so we have not to be afraid of change. We have to embrace it. We have to communicate well to our teams because they need to understand. Our staff wants to understand things, and they are able to understand them, and they're also able to contribute. They have great ideas. We have to listen. And we have to listen to one another, and I think really we're all in this together, Yeah.
Now, can I just pick up on your point, Bruno, because it's so good point is with our size can become a problem in itself. And in some of the big media companies, we're trying to do everything in such a very robust and complete way, straight from the beginning. To roll it out for all the staff, for all the users or whatever, and we take years to build something. So we had this product owner at Swedish Radio, and he said to me, well, just try the button. It's like, yeah, but just the button, there has to be a functionality behind there. No, when you press the button, it's only says under construction. So we'll test how many people would actually press the button for this functionality. But you can't do that, Yeah, nobody pressed the button. This was in his previous company, so they knew it was a shit idea with this kind of fancy new functionality. But we would have put in 1 years of efforts into kind of developing the kind of functionality behind that button. So also learning from us not to do it in such a complete way all the time, because we're wasting a lot of time and money.
Very interesting. We've got a couple of questions. Yeah, round of applause like that. A couple of questions, which we're going to hear both questions. That's all right.
Hi, I'm Anastasia from David Systems. I don't have a question, but I want to follow up on the ideas gathering, how to be more agile and more fast. So I'm user experience engineer at David Systems, and one of the good UX methodologies is user research, which I'm doing, and I think we can apply this methodology also to our listeners, and we should do. So we should do listeners' research. We should listen to our listeners. What are they doing? What are their habits? We should observe them. And I think in that way we can see what is interesting for them, what is the trend, where are they want to go. So yeah, I think that would be one idea how to be faster.
Great. Okay, and we have one of our witnesses, I think, wants to jump in. We'll come to you in a moment, sir.
So I'm Florian. I'm also from Media School Bayern. I work with Julius, but I also work with people even younger than me and Julius, people who are 18, 19, 20 years old, who want to become journalists. And I think working with them is very interesting because in ways of distribution, they don't think in one side. They don't think, okay, I have this topic, I want to make a radio piece about it. No, they think in, okay, I can make this for radio, I can make a podcast about it, I can make this TikTok video about it, maybe I can make another video about it, I can write an online article, and I think that's the way we need to work in the future. We're not only a radio station anymore at Media School Bayern. We're content creators. We're content creators like the people on TikTok, like the people on YouTube, and I think that's the thing that we should do.
Great, and actually we'll have one more as well, if that's all right.
Hi, I'm Thilo. I just wanted to refer to the point from before, pull down the barriers, because yeah, there's a link between us, because actually I'm the one who is kind of responsible for the content that those guys yeah, are pitching day by day. And yes, I know the system quite well, so if an idea is shitty, it is shitty, and we will tell those people. Just from my personal experience, I have the impression that younger people, they really tend to accept less these barriers. So we all know that they are there, but most of the people, they don't ask, do we have budget for this? They say, it's a good idea, so let's go for it. And of course, it's complicated to handle this from time to time, but from my point of view, sometimes it just helps to explain those people, say, go for it, I will stop you, I will tell you, I will explain to you at a certain point what the barriers could be, so have it in mind, but go for it and try it. And this is definitely not the solution for everything, but I have the impression that it helps to encourage and motivate the people who have their ideas, and yes, sometimes they are shitty, but they can become better, and sometimes they are great ideas, and if you stop them from the very first point, tell them, it sounds like a good idea, but it won't work at where we are. It's just you just waste ideas in the end.
Can I?
Good point.
Yeah.
So one thing they did in Radio France was to create something called Accélérateur d'idées, which is an incubator for ideas. And so now everyone in the company can actually propose ideas. And I got an email 2 days ago about a few young people, 20s, working in local radios for the Radio France and saying we should do this escape game and it would help understand about radio, how it works and information, etc. And please vote for us because we all have the right to vote, and then the ideas get worked on and then might end up actually working. And it's true that I find this process amazing, but yeah, I wish maybe sometimes that this kind of process would happen. Like I wonder, like if I go to Radio Canada and I'm this age, because I think, of course, now that I propose project, it makes a difference from when I was, from 15 years ago when it was harder. I don't know how you create space for ideas of young people to make sure they're heard as, even though they don't have experience.
Well, we have a great program called Fais ton balado, Do Your Podcast, and it's open for a young group who has actually, it's universities, it's young, inexperienced people, and we send this across Canada and send us your projects. And we've discovered great talent through this program, and it's evolving every year. So that's one of the ways that Fais ton balado it's a great project.
Yeah, just to add something, I think part of the truth is it's really nice to start new projects all the time. That's what we do also, but you have to stop other projects then to have the resources. Yeah. I think that's a key thing. If you really want to build new systems, you have to stop old ones. So, and that's most of the time the problems that I see in bigger organizations, because they say, no, we can't stop this because it's really, really big. And then you never do any new. So that's really a problem. If you have to do the morning show, yeah, nobody can do the podcast. So, and this is really a question. Which kind of show, which kind of program are we killing?
That's also where tools can help. Because once a program is installed properly, and then you can probably tool it in a more efficient way so that you can do it still, but maybe with a little less resources, and then use the resources for something else. It's a huge part of the transformation. When you see artificial intelligence, chat, blah, blah, whatever. If you use it, if you use it right, maybe you keep some resources to do something else. So you can see, oh my God, I'm out of a job. No, you're not. Use it, and then use the energy you're sparing to do something else. Tools can help, really.
I mean, it feels like to me quite a lot of this conversation is about people, right? And we're a people business. And I mean, one of the things I'm thinking, kind of sat listening to everyone, and then this is a question for you all: is are we asking too much of people? Like, we're asking quite a lot of. You're asking quite a lot of your staff. You're asking them to work on different platforms across different areas at different times. You're asking them to train up, use different tech. You're asking them to kind of get over the fact that ChatGPT is taking over elements of the... Like, we are asking quite a lot of people. And I saw a fascinating talk on Sunday about burnout and kind of like staff and all of that. And it's kind of been percolating through my mind over the past couple of days. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that.
I can take this actually. So the platform we're working on is about online collaboration on audio production. And the entire idea is that basically we don't want to reinvent the way people are working. The workflows don't need to be completely replaced. They just need to be enhanced. So how do we ensure that all the tools that people are using, whether they're enterprise tools or super cool new tools that you're trying every day, how do we make sure they're well integrated together, they're integrated into your ecosystem, they're secure and safe for the enterprise, and it makes it fun and more efficient for the user?
I think that's the key issue there. It's the same as when we're talking about bridging and partnering. We're asking a lot from people. We're asking more value from people. But the actual question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we do to make their life easier? How do I make sure? There is not just the salary raise, okay, that will make someone happy for a while, but if I can make their life easier, if I can help them be more creative without a lot more effort, if their life, everyday life, is simpler, well, maybe we're on the right track. Then they will follow us in the change, and they will probably also follow us in our new desire and in our way of putting resources in new things, because we're making it easy for them.
But a lot of us in this room, we work in kind of journalistically driven media companies, and we're obsessed with the new, yeah? So we're jumping on new trends and like, whoa, can we use this? And should we launch a new product with this, yeah? And there's nothing harder than launching a successful new media product. Yeah, to kind of open the audience attention to a new title, for example. It's so hard. So one of the things that I think we should never forget is that also some of the legacy content that we have, some of the traditional stuff we have done, we can take that to the next level as well, because we tend to forget about it in the corner over there. Well, we're obsessing with the new, and then the people who are working with maybe some of our primary products and fantastic quality, they feel completely discarded or in the shadows of our company. So we're not using them as a resource, and we're burning out the people working with the new ideas. So give some more attention to what products or programs you have that are actually really big in people's consciousness. That's one thing.
I can relate to that, yeah.
I think we can both, though, use, the radio is a great driver to hear about digital content. I mean, we have quickly been able to raise awareness on our platform because our radio hosts talk about it all the time. They say, if you want to listen to us on demand, go to our platform. There's also a way, I think podcast has brought a lot of light on our media, because these are new products, that are launched every month, every second week. And so before, I remember people used to say, radio, it's very rare that the media talks about radio because it's the same programming, for the whole season. And so it has become eventful to have, these podcasts come out every month. So I think it's this wheel that is turning, and we can, linear is great to make awareness known of all our, our digital stuff. So, I think, and it's vice versa too, because we have, the great expertise of the radio can also be helpful for, the long formats. That expertise comes from radio. It's the best people to do that come from there. In our company, we have 2 teams, though. The original podcasts are done by, it's per project, and our radio staff is really for radio. So we've built 2 expertises, I think.
Great. Guys, we've had so many fantastic thoughts. Thank you. And thanks to the guys in the audience who've contributed as well. I want to give Albert the final word on today as the kind of brains behind this idea, and this is the second year that we've done it. Albert from David Systems, what's your thoughts on bridging?
I think it's essential, and thank you guys for also representing this diverse angle of what bridging can mean. So we need to be sure that it's not getting lost, because the idea, the method behind it is true. I wanted to give you a couple, maybe some questions in the end to the audience, because so there were 2 things that stuck out for me. One is about human power, like human resources, and I was wondering, maybe you can ask the question yourself, how much of your content in your organization is truly co-created between what we try to work on, broadcast and digital, for example, between podcast and broadcast? Are these teams truly working together? Or are you sending 2 different teams to cover the same topic? So here's something where you can start thinking, and where you can do, in a way, innovation that can help your organization. And the other topic I was thinking about, you mentioned the internal innovation days, and I was wondering, why are you doing this only in your organization? Do you invite external companies that you trust to work with you on these ideas, to bring in another angle, to translate the ideas that you have and verify them with some people who are experts in technology? Or even invite maybe public media companies and have them on there, because usually you don't necessarily compete so much on technology. You can compete on originality, creativity, you compete on the content, but you don't compete on the technology. So start asking yourself that question, and and maybe next year we have some very interesting new answers.
Like that. Guys, if you find yourself in a silo, you are doing it wrong. Thank you so much, Bruno, Christian, Camille, Caroline, Ole, and Caroline.